Well, good afternoon everyone and welcome to the Sabi Sands. It's so good to be back, words cannot describe. We got in quite late last night, myself and Alex. Had a good journey up from Johannesburg though, no issues along the way, but we got in at about 8:30, 9 o'clock last night. So we didn't really see what the vegetation was looking like on our way in. So really nice to wake up this morning and be able to explore and see the changes, which are quite drastic. Just in about 3.5 weeks that I've been gone, it really has dried out a lot, and I really enjoy these colors that we're seeing at the moment. There's a lot more contrast than when everything's completely green. So really enjoying this change of scenery, and there's a cool breeze blowing today. However, it is quite hot in the sun. It's not as cool as it was this morning, and so nice to be able to start on that zebra coming up towards us. He was out of view about 3 or 4 minutes ago, and just at the right time he decided to pop into screen, which was great. And this afternoon we've got Andrew and Alex in the final control, and Brent and Mark are relaxing at the camp, trading some war stories, and Brian is on camera this afternoon. So you should all know the drill by now to keep an eye out for the thumb that will be appearing at numerous points during the drive. So keep an eye out for that and see if you can get some screenshots. And sadly we didn't get the second vehicle up and running as we hoped to. Alex was really working hard at it and got so close, but there was just a few technical issues that were unsolvable this afternoon, but hopefully by tomorrow we will have the second vehicle up and running. But this gives Mark and Brent a good time to catch up, like I say, and trade some war stories. There was a small family of warthog slowly making their way through the quarantine clearings here, so we will head over to them and see what they're up to. If anybody would like to ask questions, please do so, and to do that you would hashtag Safari Live on Twitter or questions at WildEarthTV on email. And as Brian was showing you there are some beautiful clouds in the sky today. Oh, we've got lucky here. As you can see, this warthog is using the bent over marula tree as a rubbing post. And if you look closely, you'll notice that it is wet. I'm not sure if that was actually a male and I just called it a female, so forgive me if I did, but I just saw something in the hindquarters that could have meant that it was a male. I did only get a glimpse of it. Let's see now. No, it's a female with their piglets, as I guessed, and they have come out of a wallow. I'm not sure where they would have been wallowing, probably down at the Vuyatela Dam, I'm guessing. I'm not sure if there's too much latent water lying around at the moment. There hasn't been much rain recently. But they have been wallowing, as would I have been in the heat of the day. There you can see the water line. So a combination of offspring from 2 different litters. You can see the 3 sizes there quite well: small, medium and large. And that is common for warthog to stay with their mothers for 2 seasons, and thereafter they'll probably head off on their own and start their own family. Also interesting for me to notice how much larger these younger piglets have got in just 3 weeks. It really is a great way to notice change by completely extracting yourself from any situation and then coming back, because if you're here on a daily basis, because the growth you see is on a daily basis, it's hard to notice any great changes, but by going away for a couple of weeks, you really do notice how much they grow in such a short space of time. And I've just got a message through from Andrew in the final control that's saying that there's a lot of welcome back messages coming through. So thank you so much. I am so happy to be back, and just the small updates I put on Facebook yesterday really did get a lot of messages, and it is so welcoming and so kind of everyone to have said those words, and certainly helps me getting back into the saddle. It's quite funny, a few days ago I was thinking about what it would be like to be presenting again, and I got a little bit nervous because even just after being out of it for a few weeks, it's like anything, I guess. If you're doing it on a daily basis, it becomes almost second nature. And good to be back there, and thank you for all the welcome messages. It really is good to be back, and also great to have Brent and Mark here, as well as Brian and Andrew, the new cameraman. So really enjoying the new faces on the team. And I know Brent from way back. We actually went to the same high school, so funny bumping into one another out here again, and really fortunate that we have been able to join up here, and look forward to working together with him and with everyone else. It's almost worth Okay, well, a few questions are coming through asking what exactly I've been doing to keep myself out of trouble over the last few weeks. I'll run through exactly what happened with you. Right now I'm just going to park in the shade over here and then continue. Well, let's see if we can actually get a little bit ahead of these warthog and then get a better view for you. But basically I drove from here to Johannesburg, which is about a 5 or 6 hour drive, and then put my car on a train down to Cape Town. And then what I did is I flew down and picked up my car there the following day and went straight into a 2-week course to attain a Cape Town cultural and historical guiding license, which will allow me to guide guests in the Cape in the future. And it's just something that I've been thinking of doing over the last year, and this was a little gap that I thought I would take to get it done. So I did the 2-week practical part of the exam, and then now it's self-study and a few small practical assessments that we have to do, and then I'll go back to Cape Town on the 16th of March to write the exam. And then hopefully I will get my Cape Town guiding license, which will just open up a few more doors for me going forward. And after that 2-week course, I just relaxed a little bit, went and got some of my photographs printed to see how they would come out and look, because a few people have been interested in purchasing them. So went and established or found myself a good print shop that can get prints done, and secured everything there, and then just enjoyed myself. Went for a lot of hikes on Table Mountain. It's really a beautiful city, Cape Town, with so much nature on your doorstep that I made the most of that and spent a lot of time hiking up on the mountain, and a few drinks with old friends and meetings and dinners and gatherings, a few parties along the way, and also, just like I say, some time to rest and relax. But had a great 3 weeks, just over 3 weeks down in Cape Town, and a perfect rest. Now, when Graham got a hold of me on Friday last week saying that there's a chance I'll be back up here on Wednesday, it couldn't have come at a better time. I was starting to get itchy feet, and really am happy to be back in the bush again. Well, it's certainly going to become tougher and tougher for the herbivores as each day draws to a close, because it's beginning to get drier and drier, and will continue to dry out until the next major rainy season. There's still a strong chance of rain, possibly even later today, as well as in the next coming months, but the majority of the rainy season is technically over, so tough times lie ahead for all the herbivores. I met up with VM when I was down in Cape Town, which is great. It was sadly only for an afternoon and evening, but we made the most of it. We did a beautiful drive around the peninsula of Cape Town and drove along a road called Chapman's Peak Drive, which is worth Googling to have a look at. I'll repeat it: Chapman's Peak, Chapman, Chapman, and then Chapman's Peak Drive. It's an incredibly beautiful road that runs along the coastline of the Cape Peninsula, and there's a few stop-off points where you can stop and have some snacks and a picnic and enjoy the views. So we did a kind of sunset cruise along the peninsula with old VM, the cameraman, and then went home for a braai or a barbecue. So good to touch bases with him again, and he was helping his folks move down to the Cape, so that's what brought him down there. It is something you really have to make the most of when you do get off time, and when you do have a job like this, is catching up with friends, even if they are friends from the bush, because it can be many months, if not years, before you get opportunities to see them again. Okay, well, that was a wonderful sighting of the warthog. The reason why I said there could be a little bit of rain later on is the clouds that are forming to the south of us, which Brian's showing you now. Still quite a way off, but as you can tell from those colors, there could be some moisture coming along with those clouds. So plans for this afternoon are to firstly and foremostly just go out and enjoy ourselves, and I think that'll be hard not to do. But in terms of where we're heading and kind of any goals or plans, because I haven't been here for many weeks, and to be honest I haven't been following too many of the drives, simply because the internet in South Africa is not really up to scratch for the streaming, as well as the fact that I was out and about making the most of my time off. So I don't know too much about what's been going on. I've been catching up with Mark obviously a little bit over last night and the course of today, but like I say, because I've been out of the loop for a few weeks, it will take a few drives to get back into the swing of things and understand where the animals are moving and what's going on. But as I'm sure a lot of you are aware, you all know that around any one of these corners we could bump into something interesting. So that is the beauty of it. Even though I don't know too much to go on now, anything is possible out here. Mark did mention that there were apparently, or there was talk of tracks of a female leopard, possibly Karula, around Buffelshoek Dam. So I thought that would be a good starting point, because we know that there was a leopard moving there, so if we head into that general area, it does increase our chances of seeing one. And on top of that, I would love to go and see Buffelshoek Dam, because I haven't seen it for a while. One thing I noticed when I woke up this morning was that the woodlands kingfishers aren't nearly as vocal as they used to be when I left, so they're starting to wind down, which is sad because it is such a beautiful noise to wake up to in the morning. But there still were one or two calling today that I've heard so far. But again, just something that I find interesting. You know, you go for a few weeks and come back and all of a sudden you notice these quite drastic changes. Just got a question through from Sarah in New York. Good afternoon, Sarah, and welcome on board. Oh, spider web. Now, Sarah was asking why the warthog go down onto their knees while they're feeding, and the reason for that is, I feel like a magician, it just keeps on coming out. There we go. What is the reason why the warthogs feed on their knees? And a lot of pigs do that simply to lower their body and therefore be able to utilize their snout more like a shovel, effectively to lever up roots and small little blades of grass. So it simply makes life easier for them. They prefer to eat the lower shoots that are fresher and greener. But good observation there, Sarah. But it is a stereotypical stance of the warthog whilst feeding. Through, and thanks so much for sending all these questions through. It really does make the whole experience that much more intimate and special. So thank you for doing that, and sorry if we don't answer all your questions. But back to Sherry's question from Colorado. She asked if there's different levels of nutrients in the vegetation from compared to when they're green relative to when they have dried out. And I think it is fair to say that yes, there are potentially slightly less nutrients, but what also happens is that as it dries out, it slowly becomes less palatable, and also as the grass grows and expends its nutrients into, for example, grass seeds, it will therefore have potentially less available nutrients in the grass itself, as it, like I said, would have invested those nutrients into the seeds. So there certainly is, I think it's fair to say that there's less nutrient-rich vegetation around as it does dry out. And I think that's also a combination of reasons, one being that the animals will feed on vegetation that is nutritious at any given time and therefore kind of finish it out before feeding on anything of less nutrition. Brian, what are your thoughts on the rain and the clouds? Any predictions?
Hopefully after dry.
Hopefully after dry, but do you think there is a chance of rain?
Yeah, definitely a chance of rain.
Okay, good. We're on the same page there.
Yeah. Not right now, though, a little bit later.
Okay. It really is the best when the rain decides to fall between the dries, especially now that it's drying up quite dusty. Should I stop for a bit, Brian? Brian's just doing some running repairs on the antenna. It's come a little bit loose. The road that we're driving along now brings back so many good memories of Some great sightings, a lot of leopard sightings we've had in this area, with Karula, Quarantine and Djuma, all three of them. Sadly all not at once, which was something I was hoping for, but it's going to become less and less likely as the weeks go on. As she would have started to kick them out and be less tolerable of them at her kills, it would have been still fairly a high chance of seeing them interacting. But like I say, as time goes by, there will be less and less chance of seeing them all together. But who knows, maybe we'll be able to see her next litter. It wasn't confirmed that she was mating, or she wasn't actually seen mating that I'm aware of, but very, very shortly after she lost her last cub, which was probably late December, Brian. Late December. We had tracks of her and a male leopard, in all likelihood her and the male leopard heading off into the south, so they could well have been mating as soon as a week after losing her cubs. And what that means is that in 3 months' time, roughly 90 days to 100 days, she could well give birth again. So we should still be here then. So that's something to look forward to, the next generation. Sadly, with predators, as a lot of you may be aware, they do have a high mortality rate of their cubs, be it lion or leopard, and whether they lose them to their own species or to a hyena, doesn't really matter. The fact is that they do often lose cubs. So here we've got two different species. The one in the foreground with the horns, with its head down feeding, is an impala, and it's a male. And then behind it is two inyala, so distinctly different, with those vertical white stripes and little white spots on their rump. Really beautiful. And not a bad plan from this male impala. Maybe he's left the rest of the bachelor herd, but joining in with these inyala simply aids in his security. More eyes and ears to keep an eye out for any prey. We're also getting a few more alerts from a go-away bird that you may hear calling off to the right. Vinyal is just on our right, but it's very thick, so I'm not gonna. Oh, Brian's already onto it. Well, these vertical white stripes, especially if you look at the one that's more hidden by the vegetation, or if this next one starts walking into the vegetation, these vertical white stripes, together with all the branches you can see, certainly help break the animal's body shape up, therefore making it harder for predators to see them. Well done, Brian. Brian's showing you exactly what I mean by how these stripes can help the animal blend into its surroundings. And they are typically found in thicker vegetation, the inyala, so suits their habitat perfectly. Oh, there's a beautiful big male inyala, just slinking off like he was following that female quite intently. So she might be coming into season, hence getting his full attention. Just going to get a quick update, or give, I think it's Craig, an update. He's just come out onto Djuma.
Hello everyone. Being out in the bush and being out there live has its technical challenges. We're experiencing
signal, but it's all worked out quite well. The male Inyal has come out into the open now. Certainly one of my favorite antelope. Nothing quite like it in terms of marking out here. The kudu comes close, but doesn't have as much of a variety of colors on it, and doesn't have that same shaggy hair, or as much shaggy hair dangling below the undercarriage. And here come the rest of the family following the big male. You'll notice when the one with the small horns comes into shot that there's a small white chevron between his eyes, and that's an indicating feature of the males. The females have a very less distinctive, or almost non-existent, chevron between their eyes, as Brian's showing you now. Thanks, Brian. So these two males now that are coming through, these younger ones that Brian's showing you, look like 2013 models, so just over a year in age. They've still got a few more years before they get to dominance, like this big male here. It'll be interesting to see if and when these two males may compete for the females within this herd, because they both can't be boss. So in the coming weeks and months, we will certainly see the herbivores starting to increase their as they compete for the ladies. Well, I think that's the end of the sun for the afternoon. It's just disappeared behind a huge bank of clouds that we've been watching come up towards us from the south. And don't be alarmed if you hear a strange noise now. It's just a helicopter flying past. I really would love to fly over this area in a helicopter. It would be an incredible experience. I've done one flight from the lodge where I used to work in the southern Sabi Sands up into the Bladder River Canyons with one of my guests, but we didn't spend any time really flying over the Sabi Sands itself. We flew straight out and up into the beautiful Bladder Canyons, had a champagne breakfast and flew back. Wasn't a bad way to spend the morning. Really must commend the team who've been left out here over the last few weeks. They've really managed to get this vehicle up and running as it should be, and everything's working really well, which makes our life easier. I remember towards the end of the last stint, the one vehicle's monitor wasn't working, and it really does make it difficult not having the monitor and seeing exactly what the cameraman is filming. Whereas this one is working perfectly now, which I'm enjoying. So thanks guys, Brian and Mark. And Tara was here also, and sadly I've yet to meet Tara, but I've heard a lot of good things about her, and I'm sure she would have also been getting her hands dirty, helping get things fixed and up and running. Afternoon, Sherry in Colorado. Sherry's just asked a really good question about flash floods and mentioned where she stays in Colorado, there's often situations where there may be no rain in her area, but rain elsewhere, and that rain then comes through causing flash floods with no real warning. And yes, that does certainly happen here in the dry riverbeds as well as in the Sand River, which is the main river that runs through this kind of area of the Sabi Sand. Sadly, we can't actually get to it from this property, but it's not far away from us, and it does flow throughout the year. In winter, it's not flowing nearly as strongly as it does flow in summer, but we do get flash floods even down that main major river, which is probably around 50 meters wide from bank to bank on average. And a lot of the properties have traversing rights on both sides of the river, and you may cross over on an afternoon drive, let's call it, having seen no rain in the morning, no sign of rain in the afternoon. You cross the river, and they're often not actual bridges, they're just kind of rocky crossings that are created with manpower, just hands putting rocks in places, so not able to cross the rivers, and they don't give you much elevation when the rivers do flood. And one of my friends had crossed over a river. It was when we had just got a fleet of brand new land vehicles, and it was, I think, within the first week of us having these vehicles, he crossed the river came down, and he tried to get back across. Water got into the vehicle broke in the middle of the river, they nearly got washed down the river. It was quite a scary situation. Luckily we had a huge firefighting vehicle, almost like a Unimog, that could drive into the river, and then we strapped on some tow ropes and managed to pull it out. But that was a scary situation, and a good example of also flash floods affecting us here, Sherry. So, and like I said, even though I think it is the end of the kind of major rainy season, there is still strong chances and likelihood of a few more major downpours before the winter. So we could just experience those flash floods. Just got a question through from Kim on email. Good afternoon, Kim. Welcome on board. Kim's asked whether there are other antelope that has greater sexual dimorphism or difference between one another, as also, or like the Inyala do. And yes, I think it is fair to say there are some that have got large differences. The bushbuck and kudu, both also in the same family as the Inyala, do look quite distinctively different, with the males often being a darker, more chocolate brown than the females, and always having horns, as well as those white chevrons. So the spiral-horned antelope family is a good example of that. All of the antelope have got, well, the males have got horns and the females don't, so that's kind of a standard. But in terms of the actual coloration of the coats, I guess the impalas are very similar. What else is there? Waterbuck, very similar. What else is different? Diker are similar, Steenbuck are similar. Who else do we get here? Klipspringer are similar. So most actually do, more of them it would be fair to say in this area have got a very similar color coats. I can't think of any more at the moment, Kim. If I do think of any others with a big difference, I will be sure to let you know. Okay, a really pretty bird just flew off from here. It's called a paradise flycatcher. We have managed to show you a few of them. Once Brian and I sat watching them on a nest for a long time, waiting for things to happen, but nothing did. Where's it gone? Oh. Sorry about that, it has disappeared, as the birds often do. And if any of you are newcomers, firstly, welcome on board, and secondly, just to let you know that we are hoping to show you a bird, and by the time we've managed to stop and get the camera in position, it's taken off. But it is worthwhile, because sometimes we get lucky and they actually stay there and you get to see them. And there are some really pretty birds out here that, unless we manage to zoom in on them, it's really hard to appreciate their beauty. Some hyena tracks heading down the roads here. Richard in the UK, good afternoon. And Richard has asked me if I've ever visited the beautiful Djuma region of Botswana, and sadly I haven't. And I'll actually come clear and tell you that I've never been to Botswana. I know it's naughty, but it is on the list of things to do, and sadly I just haven't made it there yet, neither Botswana nor Namibia. So it is on the list of things to do. There's so many beautiful places to go in Botswana and Namibia. I mean, there's even places within South Africa that I haven't been to that are really beautiful. So we are absolutely spoilt out here with opportunities of places to go exploring. And in a way, I'm kind of happy that I haven't done quite a few things in Africa, because it's something to look forward to. Zimbabwe is another country where I would really like to spend more time, as I've only been there once, and it was a great stay. 2 weeks in the Pomashana area of southeastern Zimbabwe, where the lodge I used to work for has a camp. And it really is a wonderful wilderness area with a lot of rock art from indigenous people that lived there many thousands of years ago, and you can see these incredible images that have been painted onto the rock with ochre of these tribesmen hunting giraffe and eland and different animals. So that's a great advantage of that specific area. I was in Zimbabwe, as well as great rhino viewing, wild dog, good lion, sable, and baobab trees. Lots and lots of baobab trees. Excuse me, which are my favorites? Maureen in the UK. Good afternoon. Maureen's asked an interesting question: whether I've seen leopards hunting catfish before. Sadly, I have not. I've only seen video footage of them doing it. But this is the time of year where you could get lucky as things start to dry out. You may find catfish stranded in small pools of water, and I'm sure adult leopards will also take the opportunity, but it's often been young leopard that I've seen on the video footage that are a little bit more desperate, that take to a little bit of fishing, and they will try and scoop the catfish out of these drying puddles with their paws. It really is interesting how, and this isn't necessarily the case with you, you've potentially seen this happen before, and if you did see that before, that's incredible. And if you did, I'd like to know how many times you've been on safari, because you get some people that may come on safari once or twice in their whole life, but see such magical things when they're out there that people that do it day in and day out will never see in a whole lifetime. So it really is the beauty of coming out on safari. You could see something so rare and unique that, you know, not many people on the planet would ever see that in a lifetime, even in the industry. So I'd be interested to know if you did see that happening and where it happened and whether it was a young leopard. So please send that info through to Andrew, and I look forward to the answer. Southern grey hornbill calling somewhere around. Sherry on email afternoon has just asked or mentioned that you've been seeing a lot of baboons around recently. Well, that's great news, Brian. Okay, well, that's good to hear, because I know when I was around we didn't see them, not even once, in the kind of 2.5 months that I was here. So good to know that they are around and that you are getting to view them. And then Sherry did mention that she's heard the baboons in certain parts of Cape Town can be problematic, trying to take, well, they're just trying to get food essentially that they know humans carry, and they'll sometimes steal handbags from people or jump into cars, especially in areas where a lot of tourists go, like Cape Point. They've become problematic there, but on the hikes that I did, I didn't see any baboons. They kind of know the hotspot areas to go to, and those are the very touristy areas with the high flow of people. And it's sad that it's got to that stage, but it's human nature to try and feed animals, and everybody's doing it out of the goodness of their hearts, I guess. But as a matter of fact, all you're doing is disadvantaging that animal hugely, because by making it aware that it can get food from us, it often causes them to become problem animals. And in quite a few scenarios, the only way to solve that problem is to shoot the animal. Once it's learnt those ways, you're not going to untrain it. So bear that in mind when you see a sign that says don't feed the animals. Abide by it, because it does have very negative repercussions for whatever species it may be. And yeah, sadly the baboons have, after having been fed by people and realizing that this food was there, and then also realizing that they're faster and sneakier than us, and that we're scared of them when they do jump into your car. They've got some crazy video footage of people arriving and they haven't even opened a car door yet, and a baboon will jump in a window, and then all 4 car doors will open, and everyone will shoot out the car, and the baboon will then start helping itself to whatever it can get into. So it's It's not a good scenario, and something worth bearing in mind if you're in Cape Town. The good thing is, if it does steal your handbag, I guess it's not really looking for your cell phone or wallet. It's just going to open it, have a look for food, and if there's none there, leave your handbag lying behind. Okay, so I'm going to start looking closely for tracks. I'm actually going to get out the vehicle here. I've been a bit slack up till now, and have a decent look around. Mark did say that there were tracks of a leopard, a female leopard, in this area this morning. I don't think he actually saw those tracks though. I think they were tracks found by another vehicle that he just heard calling on the radio. So excuse me for a moment. Some Sesticular is just making a bit of a racket, and it sounds like a few of them, so I'm just gonna look in that area closely in case there's something there. It could be a mongoose or a snake, but it could equally be a leopard. Sadly, no sign of any leopard or other predators heading down the road. There was an elephant bull that passed by in this direction, which we'll bear in mind for later, but it is in the opposite direction to where we are heading. But always useful to know, and nice to imagine an animal walking down this road. We know that it wasn't long ago, within the last 12 hours, on a vague inspection. We know that an elephant's walked down. You know, I often just like imagining or picturing the animal walking through the scenery. Okay, Brian said he's got a slight focus issue, so there's nothing wrong with your eyes, and just bear with us for a moment or two. If you need me to stop, let me know.
It's okay.
Okay. It seems like the depth of field is outrageous.
Yeah. It's like the glass.
Okay, well, Brian's just going to fiddle around, so bear with him for a moment as he tries to get to the bottom of this issue. In the meantime, I'm going to try and find something for Brian to film by the time he's got the camera fixed, so that's the plan. So the Djuma guides and trackers have kindly come out and been doing quite a lot of road clearing, chopping branches that grow over the road, and that's why you may notice little piles of dead branches on either side of the road, and you'll continue to notice them drying out over the coming weeks. Ruth in Costa Rica, good afternoon. Ruth is asking whether within a troop of baboons there's only one male dominant. And ooh, this looks good. There's now tracks of a breeding herd of elephants, and I can see some really small little footprints heading down this road towards Buffelshoek Dam. Maybe they're there, maybe they've moved on already, and you may have heard a woodpecker calling, or sorry, knocking in the tree behind us. So back to Ruth's question from Costa Rica regarding the male baboons. No, they are not. There's not just one dominant male within a troop. There's kind of a gang of dominant males who will all vie for different females and essentially try to woo and win over as many females as they can, and they do that by grooming the females, as well as protecting females' kids from older baboons that may be bullies. So there may be several males within a troop that are dominant and have their girlfriends within the troop. A lot does change from area to area though, especially in terms of size of troops, and it can be the size of troops of baboons or the packs of wild dogs. You know, sizes can vary for all animals and their groups or coalitions. So therefore, when you can get sometimes an exceptionally small troop of baboon, and then yes, potentially only one male is dominant, but the norm is that there will be several dominant males. Okay, Maureen in the UK has got back with her answer to me about whether she had actually seen the catfish hunting, and she saw it on a documentary, and it was a female leopard with 2 cubs that were hunting for these catfish. I don't think I've actually seen that documentary, interestingly enough, but I have seen other clips. So here we are at Buffelshoek Dam. Seems to be a similar level to what it was when I left, so it hasn't dropped greatly. There seems to be a lot more hippos here. Go ahead. Go ahead for Scots. Interesting that this youngster's separated itself a reasonable distance from the rest of the pod of hippos. I'm not sure why, but there appear to be 2 coming towards us playing. Let's hope they do it again. They're almost porpoising out of the water. It was really funny to watch, but I only did it once. Let's see if they get excited again. Oh, the hippo viewing certainly has got much better. There's also a youngster now playing, trying to climb onto its mother's back, which it's not doing a very good job at the moment. It would be incredible if it did manage to climb on there. Imagine if it lay on top of its mom's back. It just doesn't have the right feet and nails to be able to aid in its gripping as it climbs up. It seems to have found a comfortable perch there that it's happy with for now. What's this that's coming down to drink on the other side? I think it's a bushbuck. Yes, it is. Beautiful. There's a female bushbuck. It's just arrived down at this northern edge of the waterhole, and you can see she's very nervous, and rightfully so. She's alone, and she's got her head down there. You wouldn't be able to see anything creeping up on her from behind. And she will also be cautious of the threat coming from inside the water. There are crocodiles in some of the ponds and dams in the Sabi Sands. Sadly not this one, but she's not 100% aware of that, so let's watch how long she manages to... Oh! Imagine just trying to enjoy a drink, quench your thirst, but you are absolutely terrified because you don't know what may be stalking you. You see how she's swiveling her ears backwards to try and listen to anything that may be creeping up behind her. She's using her right ear to kind of mainly focus on noises coming from the rear. So unlike the Inyala, the bushbuck only has the white spots. It doesn't have the vertical white stripes. And less gregarious than the Inyala. They're often seen on their own bushbuck, whereas the Inyala are often in small herds. Andrew did send through a message, everyone, mentioning that there's a lot of people that would like me to head towards the hyena den sites, and I think that's a marvelous idea. So I will be doing that. When we head off from here, we will make our way down to the hyena den site. What time's it been kind of most productive, Brian? Luck of the draw?
Luck of the draw, I would say probably between 6 and half 6.
Okay. Cool. So good idea, and thanks for that suggestions, all those suggestions to whoever it was that did send them through. And I have heard a lot about this hyena den sites, and I'm so happy that there is one now, because we seriously did miss having one for the majority of the last 2.5 months that I was here. We had one kind of in the beginning of the production for a couple of weeks, and kind of around the middle of December they abandoned that den site and moved on, and we couldn't find where they moved to. Just going to stop here for a moment or two to watch these hippo. Where's the best spot? Because they might get a little bit active for us if we're a bit patient. But if not, if nothing else, we'll have a great view of this youngster perched on its mother's back. Oh, that is cute. Julia on Twitter has just asked where the woodlands kingfishers will start heading as they migrate off, and they head towards Central Africa and North Africa. So they're intra-African migrants. They don't leave the continent, but do head up to the central and slightly northern parts. Brian's just zooming in on a pied kingfisher. We just saw it splash into the water, an attempted hunt, and it could well do it again. So don't go anywhere, and let's hope to see it plummeting into the water and catching a fish. Here it goes, boom! Well done, Brian. Well, sheesh, that was lucky. I think it maybe even caught one there. Yes, it did. And there, it's swallowing it, gone. Well, I really didn't expect us to get that lucky. We waited not even 5 seconds, I don't think. And as I turned back to check the monitor, it did look like Brian nailed it. He's nodding his head in confirmation. So well done. And I hope you enjoyed that. It's an incredible thing. I mean, you can imagine flying with all those feathers into water, and then taking off must require an incredible power without getting stuck in the water. And how on earth they see the fish in this murky water, well, that's the next question. It's a remarkable skill, hunting skill they have. And it was great to see how as it came in, it kind of hovered for a bit to stall its approach before finally committing to the little plunge. I actually saw an incredible picture on Facebook this morning that I showed Brian of a kingfisher in some part of the world plummeting into a small ice hole. So there's this tiny little hole in the snow, and it catches a fish out of this little hole in the snow. A really beautiful kingfisher. Well, maybe we'll give it another minute with this kingfisher. It may show off its skills again. It would also just turn its body so that its breast was facing us. I'd be able to show you how to distinguish between male and female. But sadly this one, well, when they are sitting broadside, you cannot see that breast of theirs, which is critical for sexing the pied as well as the giant kingfisher. Now here's an interesting bird. Brian, if you go straight down from the kingfisher to the water's edge, there's a green-backed heron right on the edge of the water that's kind of hunched down, and it's also hunting. Oh, you got it there. Sadly we are quite far away, but you'll notice a grey blob on the kind of just off the center to the right, and that's a green-backed heron. Go ahead for Scots. Go ahead for Scots. So now, oh, you got it. Well done, Brian. Oh my, and it's got a fish. Brian got it, the pied kingfisher got it. Well done. Oh, that's quite a big fish now, so we're gonna see it trying to probably, oh no, swallowed it whole. What I was going to say is that we're probably going to see it, or potentially see it, trying to kill the fish by hammering its head against a branch, but because that fish was of a reasonable size. I imagine that fish squirming around in your stomach. It must be
quite something.
Yeah, I mean, it's like us swallowing a steak that's still kicking. You know, it's hard to comprehend what happens in your stomach. Anyway, The good thing is it's turned itself around, and now that it's facing... Oh, can you believe it? 3 in a row. Well, life is good here at Buffelshoek Dam, good for fishing at least. But even now that it's sitting there, you can potentially see 2 stripes, a thicker stripe across its breast with a thinner stripe below. Oh no, it's very difficult, it's far away. But the male essentially has a bow tie and a cummerbund, so 2 stripes across its chest, whereas the female's only wearing a bra, so she'll only have 2 dots on her chest, or 1 stripe across the top, essentially. I wonder where the female is, because it's only been this one that we've been watching, and I mean, at this rate, you wonder how many fish it goes through a day, because it's caught about 3, all of a decent size, in about 5 minutes, which is incredibly good going. Surely not again. Oh, now we're getting the hover. Well done, Brian. This is awesome. I mean, that is precision aviation right there. Look at how dead still its head stays when it hovers. Well, 3 out of 3 was good hunting. 3 out of 4 is still a good strike rate, 75%. And there, I guess, he didn't commit to an actual plunge. So I think, yeah, you can say he didn't necessarily miss out there on an opportunity. Well, out of all the time spent sitting at this dam hoping to see a pied kingfisher hunting, it's never happened until today. And then, boom, 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 3 kills in a row. Should we go back to that heron, Brian, just below there, because it's still poised in position. And I'm very interested to see how long it will actually sit poised there before it strikes. Oh, you wouldn't believe it. While Brian went to the... You can see the ripples coming from where the kingfisher made another kill. So that disruption was caused by the kingfisher, and it did manage to get another little fish. But let's see if these ripples aid the heron in its hunting. Needs to evidently have a lot more patience than the kingfisher, because it has to wait for its prey to come up to it before it... Oh! There we go. I don't know what it caught there, but it caught something. And that must require some intense focus and patience to be able to sit there and hold that pose for sustained periods of time, hoping for something to swim past that it can dart its beak at. Well, there's some woodlands kingfishers calling, as well as the Cape turtle doves. And that, combined with the hippos taking these deep breaths and the kingfish hunting, are all making for quite a wonderful setting here at Buffelshoek Dam. Come on, give us a proper call. There we go. Okay, well, I'm very glad we managed to stop off here at Buffelshoek Dam, because there are a lot more hippo around at the moment, and one seriously effective pied kingfisher. Jane in Colorado, good afternoon, and Jane's just asked whether a kingfisher will regurgitate fish for its chicks, and I don't know the answer to that question. I've never actually seen kingfishers feed back and feed it to them, so that's my guess, but I do stand to be corrected by anybody that does know for certain, or that if they do regurgitate their prey, but I'm guessing they just catch it, carry it as is to the nest sites and then feed it to them. Really are for the so you have to keep your eyes peeled. No, I'm also looking for it. Just gonna get out and look for some tracks here. Okay, well, I hope you caught a glimpse of the thumb there, because I think you did poke it into the screen. So I hope everyone in Mrs. Jacobs' class got to see that. And then Destiny, I think, is one of the pupils in Mrs. Jacobs' class. Good afternoon and welcome to Safari Live. Destiny has asked why I chose this job as a career. Now, this exact job that I'm doing today, I would say that I'm very lucky to have got into this opportunity. I didn't actually know about WildEarthTV. A friend of mine heard about it and heard that they were looking for presenters, and thankfully it all worked out. So that's why I'm here today. But I always did want to work in the bush from when I was a little kid, probably 5 or 6 years old. I went to my first game reserve with my parents, and I fell in love with the bush and also any animals. When I grew up, I had lots of different animals and fish tanks and pets and birds. So I've always loved animals, and it was always my plan to grow up and do this as a job. So I was lucky that I got to follow my dreams, and after I finished university and all of my studying, then I came to the bush and became a ranger or a guide. So it's something I've always wanted to do, and due to growing up in Africa, it obviously helped greatly. And just to let any of you know that even though you may grow up in America or England or anywhere in the world, it's very easy to come to Africa and do the training once you finish school and finished your studies, and do the training and work in the bush. And there are many people that do come from overseas and work here. So don't feel that just because you're over in America now that you can't be here in Africa in the future. So that's something to think about. And whatever it is you want to do, you know, whether you want to be a pilot or an astronaut or come and work in the bush in Africa, all those things are possible. So that you must always remember. It really is so important to stop every now and then. Stretch the legs is also a good reason why I like to stop, just to get the blood flowing. But also, it's so easy to overlook tracks or signs that may be left on the roads when you're driving around, whereas if you get off and have a really close look, you may find some very useful information in the sand, like that a leopard may have passed, or lion. Oops. Now, somebody on Twitter, I think it's Brett, said that the thumb should also be a part of the little 5, and I think what we could do is we can maybe just add it on and make it the little 6. So we've now not only got the little 5 but the little 6, and Brian is now going to focus on a, there it is, well done, on a that, well done Brian, on a beautiful golden orb web spider. And this is a lady, she's walking back down onto the main part of the web, and isn't it incredible to watch how they can move? And she's collecting the silk that she let out when she kind of scurried up there, because she doesn't want to waste it. So she let out a stream of silk when she ran away, and now she's collecting all of that, and she'll probably consume it in order to not waste it. And that's quite common with spiders, that they will consume web that is broken or that they take down. And the male he's a lot smaller than her, almost 1/10 of her size. And he will be hiding probably on the other side of the web, because he needs to hide from the female, because she sees him as a food source. And that is why he often will hide on the other side of the web. He's gone way up onto the top now. There could be another 1 or 2 males running around. There are often more than one on a female's web, but there only seems to be one here. And let's see if Brian can manage to find it and show you guys. It'll be hard to see without any comparison, but it is very, very small, as you can see, and almost hard to tell. You can't see any markings like you can on the female. Go ahead. A negative, no update. Sorry, not sure what's wrong with this radio. I'm responding to you when you call, but yeah, obviously you're not hearing anything. Wonderful work on the camera there, Brian, and I'm happy that it has crept down back to the main webbing, and now you'll be able to see how much bigger the female is than the male. I mean, isn't that extraordinary? And like I say, they often do hideouts on the opposite side of the web to the female. That way she can't catch him and feed on him, or it's more difficult for her. And they will then mate with each other through the actual webbing. It's the safest way for the males. The male will also, I mean, bear in mind, she's built this web, but he will also do his best to steal little morsels of the kills that she makes and feed on little wrapped up parcels when she's maybe maintaining the web or in a different area of the web. So I guess he does get free meals, but the price that he pays for his free meals if he gets caught is that he becomes the next meal. And you may think to yourself, oh, that spider looks terrible and dangerous, and what if it bit me? Well, there's nothing to worry about with these golden orb-web spiders. You can handle them and they don't bite you, and even if they were to bite you, they've got a very low venom count, so they pose no threat to humans. Good. Susan in Tennessee. Good evening. It's slipping into the evening now. And Susan would like to know why the hippo is not a member of the Big Five. So, the Big Five, the lion, the leopard, the elephant, the rhino, and the Cape buffalo, those are the five members of the Big Five. And it was initially made by hunters as the 5 most dangerous animals to hunt in Africa. It's got nothing to do with size, even though the name may be misleading by calling it the Big Five. May be misleading by calling it the Big Five. The name may be misleading. And just to let you know, there's also a term called the Magnificent Seven, which is basically adding on cheetah and wild dog to Big Five. So it's really interesting how something that was used by hunters, the Big Five, and that was made by a hunting community, has now been kind of transformed or whatever it is. Everybody knows the Big Five is the Big Five, and kind of are a highlight of animal, are a highlight to see for people when they come to Africa, which is sad in a way because it does leave out really important animals or special animals like cheetah and wild dog. I guess that's why they made the Magnificent Seven. But I don't think it's fair to necessarily put any animal above another in terms of beauty or, you know, the necessity to see any given animal above another. And if you do that, you are bound to be disappointed when you come on safari, unless you get exceptionally lucky, because you could well come out and not see everything that you may want to see on your list. So the only advice I can give is to come here with an open mind and enjoy whatever it is that you do see. And you do tend to see more and get luckier when you are less driven and panicked and hell-bent on seeing something. So it's an important thing to remember when out on safari. Christine in North Carolina. Welcome on board and good evening. Christine's asked whether male hyenas will be allowed to enter the den site or not, and if so, why? To be honest, I'm not entirely sure of the answer to that question. I haven't viewed a hyena den site, an active hyena den site, for a long time, and I would presume the males would have no reason to go down in there and probably wouldn't be tolerated to go in there, but I'm not sure if you've seen that happening over the last few weeks, if that has happened at all, Brian, of any adults going down into the den. Or it is unlikely, probably because they've got no need or maternal instinct to go in there and look after the young, that they wouldn't be inclined to go in there, and possibly because they know that the females are bigger than them and stronger than them, and therefore they may find themselves getting into spots of bother if they do try and go somewhere that they aren't tolerated. But it'll be interesting watching this den site over the next few weeks and learning from it and seeing what interesting events unfold. Brian's just shuffled over in order to be able to get the right angle for this beautiful shot that we're about to experience. And even though the sun is behind the clouds, it's beginning to find a small gap that it's hopefully going to drop beneath in the next half an hour or so. If it does, we're in for some really beautiful colors. Not that it's not beautiful right now, but it will gain intensity as the evening continues. And thankfully the storm that's left behind that little gap in the clouds has moved off to the right or to the north and west of us, so thankfully not affecting us today, but it would be nice to get some rain in the area in the coming weeks. It'll certainly do the animals a lot of good, as well as us. Should we go in here, Brian, and then around? Is that how it works, or is it best access from... okay. Can hear some parrots calling up ahead, so I'm just going to keep an eye out for them. Sounding further and further away there, sadly. Small parrot call. Oh, there it is. But we'll be able to get a little bit closer, I'm hoping. It's just an... oh, there they go. No worries, no worries. There were some brown-headed parrots. They are difficult customers, the brown-headed parrots. Oh, there's still one here. think we might get lucky. It seems to be having some trouble getting out of this this tree. Have you got it there, Brian? It's not easy to see now, but I think you're on it there. It's somewhere in that green tangle of branches. Oh, well done. I know, that's a Cape Turtle dove. Don't tell me that's what I was looking at. Did I get false alarm. I thought there were still a few. A few people have asked how long it takes to train up to become a guide, and to be able to drive a vehicle, it's not very long at all. You could do probably a 3-month course now. I'm guessing things have changed since I did my course, but some lodges may accept you with level 1, Fagasa level 1, which would take you anywhere from Fagasa level 1, which would take you anywhere from a month to 3 months, and that allows you to drive a vehicle. But then most lodges also require you to have your trails guide qualification, which is a walking qualification, which takes a lot longer to get. And like I said, depends on what company you use to do your training, or whether you do it through a lodge. But it's fair to say that 6 months can be enough time to get your official guide qualifications, and it's not very difficult. I'll be the first person to tell you that. It's not rocket science. But the key comes in is, and the only way to learn is by actually spending time out in the field and actually guiding guests.
Sorry about the focus, everyone. I have a problem with this camera. I can't seem to rectify the problem yet.
Well, apologies for this focus issue. It's coming and going, which means it's probably an internal issue and not Brian necessarily tweaking anything, because Brian has been doing this for months on end, and this is the first time you've had this problem, I think, eh? Yeah. First time I've seen this. So maybe the camera is just a bit tired and battered around from all of the adventures we've been taking them on. Doesn't appear to be anybody home at this stage, but I'll have a look with my binoculars into that hole.
Yeah, the one on Philemon's cut line there, that's inactive.
Oh really? I thought it was this one. Whoops.
No, I thought there was another set of hyena here as well.
Okay.
So they're moving around a lot.
Okay. Well, apologies for bringing you to the incorrect den site, but that's all part of the adventure. And like I say, just finding my feet after being away for a couple of weeks. But the good news is the other den sites on Philemon's cut line is not far away, so we will head there now. That'll explain it.
Hello everyone. Being out in the bush and being out there live has its technical challenges. We're experiencing some of that now and are working on it as fast as possible to get it sorted and get you back on the vehicle with us.
Apologies for that. We established what the problem was with the focusing of the camera, and somehow the end part had come a little bit loose, so we just needed to put the lens back on essentially and tighten that up. It could have been from me a bit earlier. I was carrying the camera and I think I was carrying it in the inappropriate manner by the wrong handle, and that may have loosened a little bit, so apologies for that break, but at least we got to the bottom of that problem. Looking forward to spending a little bit more time in the evenings using the spotlights, because when I left a few weeks ago we didn't really have a major need to use it. Maybe for the last 5 minutes or so of drive we could use it, but now it's becoming darker earlier. I could be dreaming, but I thought I heard an alarm call of an antelope, either an inyala, a bushbuck, or a kudu. It's a dog-like bark. So I'm just waiting to see if we hear any more. If not, I will put it down to the mind playing tricks on me. No luck. It's so good to be back here. It really is. It's a magical evening. It's nice cool temperatures, some beautiful colors as the sun begins to set now. Originally, I think our timing will be better off now, arriving a little bit later. As den sites tend to get most active in the later hours of the evening. Fine as the day has been, like most days you go there, it's active. Okay. Without having a hyena den site, we do find it really difficult to show you hyena and their interactions, so it's been quite tough over the last few months, but happy that we've now been allowed this lucky opportunity to be able to witness them raising their cubs. it's a far easier transition coming from the city back to the bush as opposed to leaving the bush and going back to a city. One of the perks of coming back to the bush is driving a vehicle like this with no roof and the wind blowing in your face, that I'm really enjoying. This is also considerably more elevated than my little car that I have that I nip around the city with. So really enjoying being back here with the fresh air in our face and little or no traffic, or basically no traffic or very little at any given stage. It really is a pleasant change of scenery. Also really looking forward to doing some more photography. Brent actually lent me one of his lenses to use this afternoon, but sadly I've not managed to pull it out yet. He lent me one of his lenses with a little bit more zoom than the one that I use. I've been missing the photography and hope to be taking some pics shortly and uploading them onto my Facebook page so you can all have a look at them. As wonderful as it is seeing everything live and as it happens, just like you are, there's also a different beauty or different enjoyment in looking back on photographs that can remind you of certain sightings that we've had or shared together. Probably about 2 or 3 minutes away from the hyena den site, so sorry if it's taken a bit longer than expected. I think it's DJ that's just asked whether I went into withdrawal my first week back in Cape Town, and not quite. It is refreshing to get out the bush after you. I mean, I'd been here over a month and a half since I had a small break also back to Cape Town for a friend's wedding, but it is good to have a break and catch up with friends and family, and my girlfriend who stays down in Cape Town, so it was good to see her. So I didn't have withdrawal symptoms, but in the last week or two I've been having withdrawal symptoms, certainly. And when Graham did give me the call on Friday mentioning that there's a strong chance that I'll need to come up this week, I was elated by the news. Sue in Wisconsin. Good evening. Oh, wonderful, an elephant. Sue in Wisconsin would like to know whether this is a private reserve, and indeed it is. So members from the public cannot drive into this park and drive themselves around. Or no one can really. The only way to be driven around here is by a guide that works at one of the camps. And that's what makes it so special. If it was a public reserve, the roads would be a lot busier and we would not have nearly as much freedom as we do. So this looks to be a young bull elephant. Not one that I recognize at first glance. Let's try and get a little bit ahead of it without interfering too much on its ongoings, but it seems relaxed at this stage. Look at how beautiful that is with the sun setting in the background. Oh, maybe we should actually just wait right here. So now for Brian to show you the elephants in good lights, he has to sacrifice the sunsets. So that's why the sunset colors are very bright. But now, as you can see, as he does a trade-off for the sunsets, the elephant loses out. But at least now you've got
no wishy-washy face.
yeah, a combination of the two of them. They really can be such peaceful animals, and being around them you can't help but relax and really feel tranquil. You can see he's been drinking. His whole bottom lip is still very wet, and the bottom kind of 12 inches of his trunk. I wonder where he was drinking, possibly in the little drainage line not far from us here on Philemon's Dip. Oh, there goes the small acacia. Just used his foot there to aid in snapping it off at the base of the roots, as they often do. Just testing that one. Yeah, that one's also doomed. A very necessary destruction, though, that these elephants perform. You can see how thick the vegetation is in some areas, as it is with them around. So imagine if they weren't here, keeping the ecosystem in balance. Let's creep ahead a little bit further and see if we can't get him to do one little walk by us. he's got small tusks and quite a small body still. I would hazard that he's maybe around 15 years of age, but could well be way off. It's so difficult to sex animals, just as it is difficult to often sex some humans. You know, you get some people that mature quickly and others that mature later, and some people that look far younger than their actual age. So very difficult to know for certain unless you've been following an animal and actually saw it get born, which is very uncommon, especially with animals like elephants that move huge distances. They're not territorial, and before us humans developed so much of Africa, they would roam from South Africa all the way up to Kenya and Tanzania and back down as it suited them. Well, he's coming very close to us, but as I did say, he does seem very relaxed, and by simply putting the vehicle in front of him and allowing him to decide to come up to us, it's a relatively safe option, so I'm not too concerned at this stage, even though he is very close to us. But this is really good, and he's obviously doing something here, because I can see Brian's face and his eyebrows winking behind me. But he continues to come closer. Let me try and duck out your way here. And it's the small fever tree, sorry, not fever trees, acacias, that he's seeking out here and really making the most of trying to get these young acacias. And Brian's again doing a great work on the camera, showing you the different textures on that trunk, and it was a great comparison between the green leaves and that dark textured trunk. Oh. So the protection that these slightly bigger bushes were providing these younger bushes and growing up and germinating and getting their first little bit of growth has only lasted so long, sadly. I'm going to reverse and leave him because the clock is ticking now. Hello, boy. Are you going to give us some attitude now? Okay, just a little bit. A friendly goodbye. Oh, just in time. The sun is just beginning to set here, and there are some beautiful orange colors coming through. But we do need to get to the hyena den sites, and we need to make the most of this last little bit of light, because we can't shine the spotlights on the den site with the cubs. There we go. Back. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So this is the turn off that leads to the den site and the den site only, so we are just seconds away from seeing what's going on, and I cannot wait after hearing about all the action that it's been providing. I look forward to seeing it firsthand and sharing it with you, the viewers. What do you suggest, Brian, right or left? Either way, because it's a circle, I guess.
Yeah,
Okay. Just going to try and creep in as slow as possible so as to not startle any of them. Wow. Nothing to see just yet. Oh, there's one. A little gap there. But were you in the gap, Brian? So there's one youngster, and we'll keep creeping around and see if we can find any more. Maybe we just stay and watch this one to start with. No, I'm sorry. Oh, shame, its leg looks very badly damaged, unless it's just stiff. You noticed that, Brian, how it kind of stumbled a bit there? Sorry, youngster. I didn't mean to startle you. Apologies for the current shot, although it's not too bad because its head's perfectly framed by the leaves, but I don't want to distress it any more because we've already disturbed it a little bit, so I'd rather just stay here and let it relax again. There we go. And it got itself back into the shot. So this youngster that we're looking at, to me, looks quite thin and not as healthy as it should be looking. Now, I could well be wrong, but it'll be interesting to see if it does have any older siblings and if this is the runt of the litter. And with hyenas, the competition between siblings is extremely intense, and so much so that occasionally they'll actually compete to a point that it either results in the death of a sibling or it actually they directly kill the sibling themselves. It could be that they simply outcompete it to a point that it starves to death. That's one thing, but if they actually attack it and kill it, that's another. But hyenas are known to do both. Or it could just be that the adults are having a hard time getting enough food for them. All these things are possibilities out here. But aren't they cute, the young hyena? They've still got a lot more spots than the adults. Is it just, it's just this mound here, there's no other mound in the vicinity? And is most of your viewing from this spot here?
like this side.
Okay. It really would be interesting to know the myriad of tunnels beneath this mound and how many different chambers and pathways there are. What's that little nose of yours sniffing? They've got incredibly powerful senses of smell, and they can process so much information just from that nose of theirs. Just seems to be a little bit wobbly on its feet, and I don't know if it's because it's been lying down or because it's undernourished or if it's got some kind of an injury. It just seems a little bit shaky on its feet. Maybe it's just me. It's not uncommon for adults to position themselves away from the den sites a few hundred meters or so that the cubs don't pester them for milk and playtime. And then you can find at this stage of the evening that adults will return, possibly for one last feed before they head out for the night's activities. So that's something to bear in mind now, that one of the adults could hopefully pop into frame and even call some of the other cubs which may be hiding down in the tunnels in the termite mound. Have any predators come through here that you guys have seen? Lion or leopard or?
Not that we've seen.
Okay. Oh, a little shard of bone. Great for gnawing on, just as puppies would enjoy, and even kittens enjoy chewing on things. Look at those razor sharp little white teeth. They also enjoy chewing on things, and when this little hyena grows up, if it does make it to adulthood, its jaws would be able to crunch through that bone with no problem. And by us spending time here with this hyena and all the other vehicles that come and look at this den sites over the coming months, all aid greatly in the habituation process that's critical to allow for us to view adult animals and their youngsters with so little impact. And by us investing this time with this youngster this evening and hearing the vehicle noise, hearing our voices, and realizing that we pose no threat to it, it allows for great viewing in the future years. And it's taken a long time to get this wilderness area to this level of habituation, generalizing between all the different animals. Brian and I are both looking back over our shoulders in the direction that this cub's just cocked its ears, but can't seem to see anything, so I'm not sure what it is that it heard behind us. people on Twitter are saying that this is Ndapandula, which is, I believe, unless there's Ndapandula the second,
This is
from the previous 10 sites.
from Pete and Aiden.
Really? I would beg to differ, personally. I could well be wrong, but this seems smaller than that other hyena we saw a few months ago. It'll be interesting to look at the archives, and I guess that's what the viewers have done, who are saying that it's Ndapandula, but I'm almost certain I remember a slightly bigger cub even back then, 2 months ago, over 2 months ago when we last viewed it. So I need to get out or go look in the archives myself as well, but interesting that that is the suggestion that's been put forward as to who people think it is. Copy, thanks. So, I wonder if we should maybe give it a few more minutes here. And then continue off and see what else we can find with the spotlights. Okay, so now Andrew's just sent through a message saying an overwhelming response on Twitter saying that this is Ndapandula. So, forgive me for my false assumptions that it was not Ndapandula, and I'll take your word for it that it is. So, that's good news, that it's still alive. Maybe it's simply because it's not looking in its best shape that I'm confused, or simply that I didn't see it for many months. But I'm glad that people have confirmed that. And if there are some images that people have used from the previous archives in December, when we were viewing it, relative to now, and any screenshots that you have that can confirm the same spots or what it is exactly that you used to identify that it was Ndapandula, it'd really be nice if you could put some of those images from then and now together so that we could see a direct comparison between the two. Not necessarily from this evening's drive, but just from one of the recent drives that has been going on, either with Tara or Mark. Okay, now, sadly, My patience has run out, and I'm feeling that we're not going to get any further action or great action from this spot this evening. I could be wrong, but I feel that we should keep moving and see what else is out there. It would be funny if we go around and find everyone on the other side of the termite mound, but I doubt that. Well, to everyone that suggested we come here, thank you for suggesting that. Sorry it took so long to get here, but I went to the wrong den site originally. But everything happens for a reason, and our delay in getting to the den site got us that brief but really good elephant sighting. We came nice and close at the end there. Oh, I cannot explain how great the temperature is. Well, now there's a few people saying that this is not in Dapandula, so the Ndapandula debate continues. And I'm not sure how people are coming to these conclusions. It's not easy to be. The Sabi Sands is only 65,000 hectares, of which we've got about 3,000 hectares traversing. So we've got a very, very small percentage of the actual Sabi Sands, as well as the Greater Kruger National Park. So we 3,000 hectares out of 3 million. So a very, very massive ecosystem. In terms of countries, it's... Oh, I've also forgotten that. I'm rusty after my 3 weeks of leave, but let me do some research, Donna, and I will get back to you on my next drive with a more in-depth... I'm rusty after my 3 weeks of leave, but let me do some research, Donna, and I will get back to you on my next drive with a more in-depth breakdown of the Kruger and its size. To look at those beautiful big tusks. He is a monster. The biggest elephant I've seen since I've been back in the Sabi Sands the last few months. And there's a beautiful, pungent, sweet smell coming off either him or another bull that's amongst this herd. The smell of must, which smells kind of like the smell of a saddle as you take it off a horse, a sweaty horse. It's a sweet smell, but quite a pleasant smell. We'll let them continue browsing through the thickets here and hope to find them in the morning, because there are a lot of members of that herd. But sadly in the evening we won't use the spotlights on certain animals. Just getting the hang of the new light switch that Mark installed. That's a bit better. And the reason why we don't shine the spotlight, for those of you who are new to the safari experience, the reason why we don't shine the spotlights on a lot of the herbivores, or all of the herbivores, is because it really does blind them, and therefore it takes their eyes a long time to regain good low light vision or night sight. And especially with the prey animals, elephants to a lesser degree, but especially your impala and any of your more common prey species, by shining a spotlight on them, you're completely blinding them, and then drive off, leaving them feeling terrified and not knowing what's around the next corner that may be trying to gobble them up. Whereas the predators, or animals that are designed for nocturnal vision, they can regain their night vision far better than the others, and they don't really have to worry about predators to too much of an extent. Now, the good thing about spending a little bit of time out at night with the spotlight, which we weren't able to do a few weeks ago when the sun was still going down too late, is that there's quite a few smaller nocturnal species that only come out after dark. Therefore, we can only see them when looking for them with the spotlight, so we can look forward to hopefully bumping into a few different critters that we haven't been able to show you over the last few months. Have you guys managed to see any civets or jennets, bush babies, Brian? Oh, nice. Not the best sighting. Okay. But that's good that you at least got a glimpse of one. Yeah. Cool. And I saw a really nice screenshot Brian showed me this morning of one of the viewers managed to get, one of you guys managed to get a great screenshot of a chameleon that Mark spotted just the other night. A really great photograph of a little chameleon. So well done to Mark for finding it, and well done to whoever it was that got the really great screenshot. I'm sure there's potentially several of you that got a similar shot, but the one that I saw really was a good one. Oh. There's a bark spider. And we might be able to watch it building its nest, its web rather. Oh. Should I rather use this broad spotlight, Brian? Well done. Excuse me. So this is a bark spider, and it was very busy earlier building its web, and bark spiders are known for building their nests in the evening and then gobbling them up first thing in the morning, so taking them down essentially and then rebuilding them again the following evening. So it's a very active spider relative to the golden orb spider that we saw earlier, that builds its web and then once it's up it stays up. All that they'll do is a little bit of maintenance on them. Or maybe it's just taking a break. I was hoping to see it hard at work, spinning its web. But maybe another evening we will be fortunate enough to see that. Now, when I shine the spotlight, you may think I'm doing a haphazard job shining far too quickly to be able to see anything, and I understand where those thoughts, or why those thoughts may be the way they are, but it's more important to scan quite quickly and cover both sides of the road than shine slowly on one side. You are also simply looking for the reflection given off by the eyes of the animals, and you only need a split second to get that glow from their eyes. So this I found is the most effective way to search for animals at night with the spotlights. With the way technology is advancing at such a rapid rate, it won't be long until we'll have infrared or night vision goggles that we just strap on, and that way we'll interfere far less with what's going on at night. It is the tricky thing at the moment. If we were to find a leopard now, for example, yes, we'd be able to follow it, but if it did come across something that it would have intended on hunting, we would have to switch all the lights off and wait until we heard a commotion or running before we could turn the lights on again. By that stage the leopard either would have missed the prey or caught it, and we would see the final probably coup de grace of the leopard finally killing its prey, but we wouldn't see the stalking and the takedown, and sitting here in the dark would not be very entertaining for any of us. So that is the reality at the moment. But in the very near future, I'm sure we'll have some great equipment that allows us to film at night and not interfere in any way with what the animals are doing. So that's something to look forward to. At the moment, we should rather be more concerned about simply finding a leopard and then worrying about what to do when it hunts. when and if. There's also a few birds that we may be able to see now that we're driving around with a little bit more darkness. Some of the smaller owls, or even the big owls. Would be cool to see. Brian, any luck with owls over the last few weeks?
None to speak of.
None to speak of. Okay, good. Well, that is something that we need to rectify. So, you'll probably find me now shining up only in the trees and not on the ground. I'll try and mix it up to cover all the bases. Another thing we may find in a tree not only is an owl, but it could be a leopard. Or a bush baby. Or a genet for that fact. A genet's a really pretty animal that's got a spotted golden coat, black spots and a golden coat, and a very mongoose-like body, long thin body with short legs. So that's one of the nocturnal critters that we can also look forward to seeing. Sadly, with a lot of the nocturnal species, because they are harder to habituate due to their lifestyle, they aren't very welcoming to the vehicles or tolerating of the vehicles, and can often shoot off after only giving you a very brief glimpse. Now, I've just got a message from Andrew in the final control that there's just 2 minutes left, so we can start winding down. And I'm sad that this drive's coming to an end, but there'll be many, many more, and I think Brent could well be out in the morning, so I know a lot of you are looking forward to seeing him in action a bit more, and so do I. He's very knowledgeable and adds a good new element to the team here. So I think it will be his turn tomorrow morning, and I'm not sure what will happen in the afternoon. Hopefully we'll have both vehicles up and running. But until tomorrow, I would just like to say a very big thank you from myself for the very warm welcome back to Wild Earth, and also to Brian, who's done a great job on camera this afternoon. Always good to work with you, Brian, and to be back out here having an adventure with you again. So thanks to Brian and to Andrew in the final control, and to Alex Voss, who's been slaving away today trying to get the vehicle up and running. A big thank you. So from myself and Brian and everyone else on the team, good night and thanks for joining. Until next time, take care.